Welcome to the Sustainable Success Show, where we share real-world ideas, strategies, and systems to help you build success that lasts in business and life. Each episode delivers practical insights you can apply immediately without burnout, chaos, or short-term fixes that don't scale. At the foundation is emotional intelligence and effective communication, how you lead yourself and how you connect with others across personalities, generations, and cultures, because that's where trust, engagement, and performance are created. I'm Christopher Salem, your host, and this is where sustainable success becomes your competitive advantage. Hi, welcome to Sustainable Success. My name is Chris Salem, your host. I hope you are all having a great week, and if you are new to our show, welcome. You either found us here on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple, but we also encourage you, we also are on Amazon Music as well as iHeart as well. So again, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, feel free to do so at Christopher R. Salem, or you could go to our Spotify and Apple and subscribe there. Again, that way you get a notification each and every week for the next episode. And again, we never miss a week. So again, we've been on the air for over 9 years, serving you business leaders for all that time. And again, we always highly encourage everyone, when you get value out of any of these episodes, please share it with a colleague, friend, or someone that is important to you in business, helping them wherever they are to turn their challenges into opportunities, and then opportunities into solutions, and then solutions into results. That's what we are all about here at Sustainable Success. We also encourage people to follow us on our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. Also there, we also will have all the prior episodes that we've aired over the last 9 years. So we got a lot of content. If you ever want to go back in the past and look at information there, you can find every episode there to listen. For those that are new to the show, we recently went over to a video platform back in January of this year. So that is new, since we were an audio-based show for almost 8.5 years. But now, if those that like video, you got it. We have it here now. So the last 30-something episodes we've had have video as well. So feel free to check us out at the YouTube channel. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a social media community platform bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to generate genuine, authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, today we have a great show planned for everyone today. We're going to be talking about why leaders become bottlenecks as organizations grow. Now, let that sink in. Now, this isn't intentional. This is usually sometimes, as business managers and leaders, subconsciously, we may be doing things that could be getting in our own way. Well, we have the right person that's going to help really bring this full circle, provide us some direction in terms of what we can be do to eliminate those bottlenecks, to really allow us to adapt and grow accordingly in our organizations. We're going to be here today with Jürgen Dauk, that's D-A-U-K, and he has been helping leaders and organizations redesign how decisions get made so teams can move faster, stay aligned, and operate more independently. He brings nearly 30 years of experience in global leadership roles, including senior sales director at Oracle and head of new business sales at Avaya. And without further ado, we welcome Jürgen Dauk to the show. Jürgen, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me, Chris. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for being here. We really look forward to your insights and all the experience that you've held in leadership roles with Oracle and at Avaya. You know, what we always like to start off with, Jürgen, is, your kind of your evolution personally, through your career, and what led you up to really being like a solution provider in this particular area that you're going to share insights to help leaders here, get out of their own way.
Yeah, good question. So for me, it was I started as a techie, right? So I studied microelectronics, and this was my early on passion. So I moved into business, first doing as a part-time assistant, right? Assisted in a tech company, and then directly moved from university to that company. Stayed there for 12 years. And what I realized during those early days was really, yeah, technology is great, but the business side of things is also quite fascinating. So I moved more from tech into business, held sales and marketing positions, and later on got into restructuring parts of organizations, building up new org trees inside organizations. And it's really fascinating to learn how smaller, medium, and large corporations work. And last few years, I got more into, what creates value, who's creating value in an organization, and how do they deliver value. And asking about the middle management is really a good question, because sometimes I realized I've been a middle manager and higher middle manager myself, right? So I often ask myself the question, where do I deliver value in this organization, right? Or am I just, handing back and forth numbers? So it's a really, really good question. And yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Great. I love it. And I thank you for sharing your insights because it's so important. I always find I know with my career, I look back at, all the things that I used to do the opposite of what I consult and coach on now. I learned the hard way, but yet had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be able to be in position to now be helping leaders do other things in different ways that I had to learn the hard way. So thank you for that. What can when we talk about this particular topic, I think it's so important for, not only Fortune 500 companies, but all size organizations, whether if you're small or large. As when companies grow and begin to expand, and again, every organization could be different in where they are. If it's a small business, a small company, a mid-sized company, Fortune 500, but as they start to grow, all of a sudden things can sometimes, as we develop more layers and management and certain things, it can create communication breakdowns, maybe a lack of team cohesion, and then obviously these other bottlenecks come up. What are some of the things that you feel you could share with us that might lead up to that, like might be the cause, and should we be recognizing to be aware of so that we could catch it sooner than later?
So, from my experience, I would say the two most important things are having a vision that really is understood by the people working for a company and that inspires them. So, at least everybody knows kind of if they wanted to row in the same direction, where direction is, right? And the other element is as soon as fear kicks in, the fear of losing control, like when you're a small company, it's easy for top management to understand, who's doing what and to keep kind of control of what everyone is doing. Once the organization grows, you can easily see whether it's more fear-based leadership or whether there's trust in the people. So in order to trust the people, of course, you have to understand the global direction, right? But I think if you've got good people and you trust them, you don't need that much control. It's more the fear of losing control. And, you know, I I don't believe that putting in more control does achieve anything, right? It's you're just becoming a reporter of what has been done. But if you're having great people and they know the direction where to go, you know, if you let go of that, need for control, they can achieve great things.
I so important what you just said, because I always advocate as an EQ expert and communicator. This is what I do in my other than being a podcast host here. is I find leaders, they get so caught up in the control they can't control, and that is other people in situations. You can't control a situation outright. They're already like tied to the result that hasn't happened yet, rather than, okay, let's just focus on what we can control right now, and let's be intentional until it leads to the result we seek. And you can only control yourself. And would that mean that leaders have to do a better job of delegating and trusting that people can, whether if they don't trust them initially, they can do it to their level, but to give them that opportunity to grow in those roles, to give them the opportunity to make a mistake and learn from it, and not knowing that you can't create dependency, you have to create interdependency. I'd love to hear your insights to that.
Yeah, 100%. You have to trust your people more. And was really one of my learnings, because I learned from people who tried to manage with control.
Yeah.
And it didn't satisfy me, and I didn't see it working out well. And let's not forget, if you trust people, right? In private, they are making big decisions, right? Like what I married almost 30 years ago, right? I've got 3 kids. I bought a house. Those are big decisions in life. So why would I not be able to make a decision, whether to purchase a new laptop or go after client X or Y? So, you know, people, standard people in your organization, they are making big decisions, life decisions, right? And in corporate life, you're not trusting them to even do minimal decisions on their own without supervisory. That doesn't make sense.
Like you said, if when you micromanage, or you try to control what you can't control, and it puts pressure on people, they tend to do the bare minimum. They don't speak up. They kind of just want to kind of just do whatever they got to do to be below the radar, and that stalls innovation and creativity. And so, yeah, nobody wins in that way. But that's why it's so important what you're saying. What could be like if somebody has been operating in that situation, and maybe up to this point has been pointing the finger at their team, or pointing their finger at the industry they're in, or other people, that now they can look themselves, okay, what part do I have in this, because I can only control me, and what am I doing that could be causing a problem here. What would you share with those people that to kind of be aware of, so that they can begin to kind of again see it from a third party perspective, and now maybe start doing something different?
Great question. I think part of the self-awareness is really asking myself, asking yourself, what is the fear that I have? What am I afraid of? So is it really, am I afraid of not making my numbers? Am I afraid of not being seen as somebody in control? What is it? And, ideally, looking back into your own life and uncovering where this fear originates. But a first question would be, if I'm not trusting and I want to control, what's my fear? What is behind that? Right. And you can experiment even. You can start with a small task and say, look, I've got a team. Instead of telling them what to do, I'll send them for 2 days to an offsite, right? And give them a task. Say, look, we have this challenge. You go there, you run a workshop for 2 days, and you propose the solution. It takes, once you start getting into that, you feel a lot of pressure is taking off of you, because you don't have to control everything, and you don't have to come up with every solution for every challenge, right? They sometimes, as a group, can be much better in finding creative solutions than you can do on your own.
Yeah, so true, so true. And do you find that when leaders, in this case, look to empower their people rather than manage them, or micromanage them, whatever that may be. It doesn't mean it works with everybody, but if when they continue to be the example and be resourceful, like doing the things that again they say they're going to do, and now they're being an example of that, and they're being resourceful and empowering their people. Do you find that in the long run that for so many people, there a better percentage of people are going to observe that and step up in their role and duties as a result of it, versus the other way around when someone's breathing down your back or telling you what to do and how to do it, when to do it, and so on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm 100% convinced, and my experience is if you give more freedom, tell the people what we want to and need to achieve, but then let them work on that and lead by example, that makes them grow and makes teams much more successful. On the other hand, micromanaging, it feels in the beginning like you're achieving something, and again, having control. But in the long run, you'll have a dead team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might stay and do their job because they're afraid of losing the job, but you can feel that. You're entering a room, right? Meet your team, and there's no passion, no energy.
Oh, man, they're just doing the bare I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's so true. Like you got to create that. You know, like I said, you can't control other people, but you can control what you do. And what would be some of the things if there are any like changes you would recommend that once they're aware that maybe they're playing now that they're playing a role in their team not united and not stepping up, that maybe that they have to do something different in order to change those circumstances. What would be like, again, trying to do all of it at once might be setting themselves up for failure, but would there be any particular, like just one step at a time, doing one thing? And if there is that one thing, is there a certain one thing to do first over another?
What I've done and what worked best for me was really getting together with a team, and it needs to be face to face if at all possible, and then talk about a joint vision for the team. What do we want to achieve? And what's important for each of the team members, that builds trust, that builds a common understanding, and gives them a clear target. And I think from that point onwards, you can go tactics, right? But I think if it's not the vision of the whole company, but at least your team should have a joint idea of what they want to be, who they want to be, and where they want to go.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And what would your take be, Jürgen, when it comes to like communication? I always find that communication either makes or breaks a team or organization. Sometimes we assume we're communicating effectively, but we're not. Because just because we say something doesn't mean someone understood, or we assume they already know what. Like, is there any suggestions you can make about improving the communication between that leader and the team they lead?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. First is I just don't write emails and assume people got me, right? So best is spoken. And what I like to say is I tend to ask more questions
Yeah.
than tell people, right? That way I know, you know, it's not the question whether they understood me, but I want to hear what they understood. And there is nuances. I want to know what they hear and what they think.
That is so true. And I love what you just said. I want to know what they know and think. Like, so it's not just hearing what they said, but relating to an understanding, because they feel that when people feel like they're heard, they're more likely to be, they feel like, hey, I can trust you, and that you trust me. And there might be more likely to now say, hey, I don't understand something like you thought I did. And might need some resources to help me get better, where someone may have not brought that up, fearing that you would have thought they were incompetent or that weren't capable for the job, that type of thing, and would have just said nothing. And
I can give you a good example. So
oh, please
once I had
do,
a task
please.
to bring three three kind of separate business units. They were three acquired companies. My job was to make one cohesive team business unit out of that, right? And I was explaining how I am viewing the three different orgs and my steps, that I first wanted to understand, what each of the orgs were unique in, what kind of talent I had, and then try to form an organization that performs best possible, right? And so I had one-on-ones after that with different leaders, and one came to me and said, "Look, I think you probably will exit me." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Why do you believe so?" He said, "Yeah, look, in the other business unit, there is the exact same role that I'm having, but I know this person is earning half of what I'm earning. So I believe you'll get rid of me." I said, "No, no, 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 no. I need all hands on deck for this job, right?" And what I realized is you are paid more because you have much more experience, and especially in a certain area, and that is needed not only for your former business unit, former company, but I need that skill across, right? So I'm reassembling, but I'm not going to get rid of anybody. I need you. And he was so surprised. And while I thought in the beginning I had made clear what my overall plan was, you know, everybody was listening from their own bias and their own fears. So his fear was losing his job because he was paid well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how, like, effective communication can really build better rapport and trust, and build, really open up communication, and just make people feel like, okay, if they don't understand something now, they don't feel as uncomfortable asking, not fearing that they could be losing their job. But hey, hey, yes, we will get you the right resources to help you, better do what you have to do in that area. Yeah.
And what I recently became passionate about is really I'm doing a lot of research and reading papers on flat organizations with very minimal or no middle management. And it's kind of crazy, right? It fascinates me. And whenever I discuss that with traditional business people, they're saying, well, how do you control them? And it's fascinating to see there are very successful companies, long-term successful companies that run on self-managing teams without middle management, right? And absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, like, sometimes, again, we got to adapt. If certain form, like, if that kind of structure can work well, then hey, and we could always find some other way. Sometimes there are people that are really good at, like, let's say, like, in sales, right? You could have been like a dynamic sales professional and really produced at the higher level. Then the next logical move was to promote you, right? You were promoted to a manager, but then you go into management, and now you're not a good manager. You were great at sales, but you weren't a good manager. So what's the point? You might as well get promoted, maybe give more incentive to sell more, or get a bigger percent. Who knows? But something,
Yeah.
again, doesn't mean that you have to promote somebody just to promote them to a manager because they did well in one area. They may not be good in that area, and you see a lot of that as well, probably.
And they might hate it, right?
Yeah,
Because
and they may hate it.
originally you have a passion for sales. If you look at salespeople, they are typically very driven people and they love what they do, right? And they love the interaction with customers. Now, running Excel sheets, is this really, yeah, I get it. You have your dreams, they cost money, right? And you run on the assumption that making it up in the corporate ladder, you'll earn more money. But do you really love what you're doing then? Or
Yeah.
did you feel happiest when you were talking to customers and in sales?
So true. So true. And I guess it comes down to, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and hopefully that, that the organization does too, and knowing where we can make the best alignment with that. It's never going to be perfect, but we make the best alignment with it. Wow.
Yeah, and Chris, what's your opinion on forecast calls? I mean, this is always
Yeah.
up for a good debate, right?
Yeah. You mean in terms of forecast for sales or just forecast in general?
Both. I mean,
Okay.
it's most prominent in sales, obviously.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
I find that, the more proactive you can be, the better, no doubt. You want to have an idea. But the thing is sometimes we can't control what we can't control, right? We can't predict the future. We can't predict there's going to be a downturn in our industry or economy. Yes, we could forecast something based upon, what data we have. So I'm a proponent of forecasting, yes, but also knowing that we can't be too rigid on what we can't control with it. We got to always bring it back to what we can control in the moment, in that wherever you are right now, and then adapting and then maximizing to what anything. Let's say if there was a downturn or something happened, that we don't react to it, we respond to it, and we just adapt to the best we can to maximize what we can control and keep moving it forward. That's how I've always kind of, well, not always looked at it. I used to look at it the other way back years ago when I would try to control every aspect of the situation. But in the last 26 years that I've learned how to do this through emotional intelligence and what I do today, yeah. So I'm all for forecasting, but not being like, like it's got to be this, because we there's going to be a lot of things outside of your control, and when you get caught up in what you can't control, you lack clarity, you lack focus, and you won't be focused on what you can. And now everyone's just reacting to each other.
yeah, and my experience is, if things don't work out well, there is additional forecast calls and lot of additional effort and time is spent on additional forecasting. Well, the most precise forecast typically comes out of finance because they just take the average, right?
Yeah.
And a few trends, and they'll be bang on with the forecasting. They can tell you exactly whether that forecast will be right or wrong, right? And you can add, you can double your forecasts, but that will not double the deals, and that will also not, over time bring you more precise forecasting.
Yeah.
I thought so many years back, right? But my experience is it doesn't change a thing. It just costs a lot of time and effort and causes stress.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, Jürgen, this has been great information. This is such an important area that you're in, and so sorely needed by not only HR leaders, but also, every, business, from the CEO to C-suite to all types of leaders. I'd love to have you back on another episode to continue this conversation, or we could discuss a similar topic. But as we're near the end of the show, I want to give you an opportunity for the audience to get to know you even better by reaching out and contacting you. But before we do that, I want to thank you personally for taking time out of your schedule to be with us, not only for me, but the rest of the team here at Sustainable Success.
Really appreciate it. Enjoyed being here.
Thank you. And how can the listeners best get in contact with you? What are you up to, and anything that you'd like to provide or leave them?
So would love you to connect with me on LinkedIn for sure. You'll find me there. Link will be in the show notes. I also recently launched a book, The Leadership Operating System, and there is a website to that. You can find it on theleadership-os.com. That's theleadership-os.com. And if you're going to that website, there's also a section you just leave your email address and you can do some self-assessments, right? There's some great materials that you can download for free. So yeah, do yourself a favor and visit the site, download the stuff for free. And yeah, would love to hear your feedback.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure that the link for your book will be in the show notes across all the different platforms that you can watch or listen to this episode. And for any reason, if you reach out to us directly, we'll make sure to connect you with Jürgen as well, and make sure everybody get your hands on his book. This is really an important area, especially, I don't care what organization you're in, what size it is. This can be something where you can learn this now. You can prevent yourself from a lot of future hassles and other bottlenecks down the road. Jürgen, thank you again for being here with us today.
It was a pleasure. Really. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed here each and every week bringing in subject matter experts like Jürgen in to share their insights and wisdom to help elevate you and your business in terms to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Friday at 12 noon East Coast time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Till then, take care.